As Naruto woke up the next morning, he frowned, staring up at his ceiling as the weird dream of the Velvet Room replayed in his head. He wasn't sure if it was really just a dream or not, given how real it all felt to him. Honestly, it confused him, but knew he couldn't dwell on it too much, given he needed to get changed into his uniform and ready to head to his school with Sujiro. It didn't take him long to get changed, deciding to wait in his room for Sujiro to arrive, given heading downstairs didn't feel like something he was quite allowed to do. Sujiro, most likely, wanting to get this over with as quickly as he could, arrived shortly after with the bell on the door, alerting him to the man's arrival. He was a bit surprised how dressed up Sujiro had gotten, as he lost the apron and put on a white blazer over his usual pink dress shirt, the same pale khakis and white loafers, but added a white tribly. Oh good, you're up. Well then, let's go introduce ourselves properly to the staff about your transfer, Sujiro said before Naruto stood up and nodded, also wanting to get this over with. The school you're attending is in the Aoyama district. It'll take a while to get there by train, and the transfers are a pain too, Sujiro explained to him while motioning for him to follow as he started to head downstairs. I'll drive you there today, but just for today. Let's go, he added. Naruto followed him down the stairs and out of the cafe, which Sujiro promptly locked up behind them. Sheesh. Men aren't usually allowed in my passenger seat, the man complained to himself once they arrived at his car. Sujiro's car was a nice older model yellow two-seater Porsche which did well on the streets and was able to get him to Shujin Academy in a nice amount of time. While they stood outside Shujin Academy and before walking past the front gate, Sujiro quickly stopped and turned towards him with a bit of a frown. Please do me a favor and behave yourself. All right. The easier this goes down, the easier things are for you and for me, he said as Naruto nodded and he slipped his hands into his pockets. Don't worry, I know how to behave and to put on a calm front, Naruto said with an eye roll. Why do you think I'm wearing these fake glasses? Jiraiya suggested him to give me a studious and diligent student aura, he asked, making Sujiro smirk a bit. Well, at least you're thinking ahead. Now come on. The sooner this is done the better, Sujiro said, before he walked in, causing Naruto to follow behind while he checked the school out. It didn't take long for them to find the principal's office, and from the look of the secretary smiling up at them, they were thankfully expecting and ready for them. Go right on in, the secretary said as Sujiro smiled and nodded at her before heading towards the door. Once inside, Naruto was able to see the two people waiting for them. The first was a rather incredibly overweight man who was entirely bald and wore a beige suit with a white undershirt and red bow tie. From first glance he knew the man didn't like him, and from the fact he was the one sitting behind the desk meant he was most likely the principal, which didn't bode well for him. The other figure was a woman. She looked rather youthful, standing at a medium height and slender build. She had dark brown, somewhat unkempt hair that went down to her chin, and dark brown eyes. She wore a long-sleeved yellow shirt that had white and red lines going across it, a blue denim skirt, and white heels. The way she looked at him kind of made him frown inwardly, as he was keeping a straight face. Since she looked afraid of him, Naruto kind of kept to himself as Sujiro handled the paperwork before the principal looked towards him, making his stand up and focus in on him again. To reiterate, just so we're clear, you will be immediately expelled if you cause any problems, the principal said as Naruto nodded. Yes sir, I promise to be on my best behavior and not cause any trouble while I go through my probation, Naruto said, looking at the principal with a serious look in his eyes that made the man somewhat smirk before it faded and the man grew a serious look again. In my opinion, you're nothing but a liability, but we had our circumstances too. Consider, whatever you might have done a variety of things in hiding in your hometown, those days are over. If you are thrown out from our school, there will be no place for you to go. Keep that in mind, he warned as Naruto nodded again. Yes sir, I understand, Naruto said, knowing to keep his tone respectful as to not rub the man the wrong way, and from the look on his face it was thankfully working. This is the teacher in charge of your class, the principal said, motioning towards the woman at his side. I'm Sadao Kawakami. Here is your student ID, she said as she placed it on the table for him to pick up, showing she was nervous to even hand it to him. He had to pause for a second before he accepted it, noticing what looked to be a flyer underneath it before she quickly snatched it away. Be sure to read the school rules. Any violations will send you straight to the guidance office, she warned him before sighing a bit. And if by chance you cause any problems, I won't be able to protect you at all. That is your promise, right, Principal Kabayakawa? She asked, looking over to the principal, who nodded. He is responsible for all his actions, he said as Kawakami rubbed her arm a bit nervously. But really though, why me? There should have been better candidates, she complained as the principal sighed and nodded understandingly. It was a sudden transfer and your class was the only one that had an opening, he said as Sujiro finally finished signing and sighed as he looked at them. If you are done explaining things, mind if we get going? I have a store to get back to, Sujiro said. As the principal nodded. Of course, but Ms. Kawakami, can you wait outside with him so I can have a private talk with Sakura-san? The principal asked as he looked towards Kawakami, who frowned but nodded as she walked towards the door, Naruto deciding to follow once Sujiro nodded to him. Once out of the room, the principal frowned as he looked towards Sujiro with a serious look on his face. Sakura-san, please keep a close eye on him. Don't let him cause any trouble outside, he warned as Sujiro nodded. Don't worry, I already plan to have a serious talk with him about the situation he is in so he doesn't take things too lightly. Thankfully, the boy seems to know he's in the wrong, so that is a good sign. Sujiro lied as he remembered how Jiraiya warned him in his letter to make it seem like Naruto was a model probationer to keep him safe. He didn't know what was going on, but given his past and what Jiraiya did for a living, he wasn't going to question it, especially after Jiraiya confirming the content of his letter over the phone. Good. Well, best not keep the boy waiting with Kawakami for too long. The papers look fine, so you are free to go, the principal said while Sujiro sighed a bit from relief before he headed out to see Naruto standing on the opposite side of hallway from Kawakami once he left the secretary's reception office. Sorry to keep you waiting, we're good to go now, Sujiro said as Kawakami nodded and looked towards Naruto. Come to the faculty office when you arrive at school tomorrow. I'll show you to your classroom. Then, she said before she started to walk off. Wait, Ms. Kawakami, Naruto called out, stopping her before she got too far while Sujiro watched with a raised eyebrow. I just want you to know the assault wasn't something I just up and did for the hell of it. I did it to stop a woman from being raped, he said, making Kawakami frown a bit. As she looked back at him, I saw a guy forcing himself on a woman while she called out for help. I didn't know how drunk the man was, so when I put my hand on his shoulder to pull him off her, he spun around and ended up falling on his face. He also tried to punch me, but that's not the point, he said with a sigh as he ran his hand through his hair. I know I could have handled the situation better, he lied as he hoped this little lie would help make his school life better, but it's not like the assault was me just going up and attacking someone. I don't want you or anyone to feel like I'm a danger, as I intend to do my probation right. And without any trouble, he said, making Kawakami look him over, as if to assess if he was serious or not before nodding. Well, you can prove it to me by how you act in class. Trust is earned, but thank you for being forthright, she said with a lesser frown as he nodded. I understand and look forward to tomorrow, he said before he let her walk off and following Sujiro out of the school until they stopped at the front door of the school. They're seriously giving you the cold shoulder, although you did a good job trying to ease them of their worries, especially with that female teacher of yours, Sujiro said with a sigh as he noticed Naruto acting different, although he did well at seeming sincere. That's what it means to have a criminal record, even if it was for stopping a rape, Naruto said, grumbling a bit as he slipped his hands into his pockets. Well, try to make the best of it, kid. For now, let's just go home, Sujiro said with a sigh as they proceeded their way out of the school and back towards his car. Kawakami frowned as she walked through the school. What a troublesome situation, a male's voice said as she looked up to see Kamoshida looking at her with moderate concern. Kamoshida was a tall man, standing a bit above 6 feet tall with black unkempt hair, thick eyebrows, and a broad square jaw. Being the PE teacher, he wore a white t-shirt and black jersey pants. I can't believe they pushed someone with a record onto me. A male teacher would be better suited for this, she complained as despite him trying to ease her worries, she was still a bit unsure about things. Why in the world was someone like that admitted here? Kamoshida wondered aloud as she sighed and shrugged her shoulders. Who knows? It was the principal's decision. I was told it was for the school's reputation, she said, not quite sure how that worked since she thought it would have had negative effects on things rather than a positive one. I would have thought that my volleyball team has contributed more than enough to cover that, Kamoshida said, as given he was a former gold medal winning Olympian athlete, his volleyball team and how they were winning consistently was helping the school a lot. That's certainly true, she said with a frown while Kamoshida stretched a bit as his team was about to start their practice soon. Be careful, okay. Then again, if anything were to happen, I'd kick out a student like that right away. The only upside of him seems to be that he was a star player in a lot of his school's sports teams. Guess if it comes down to it, some physical exercise might keep him in line, Kamoshida said, thinking out loud about using the kid as a part of his team if he behaved, while Kawakami frowned. Well, he doesn't seem that bad from what I was expecting. I expected a delinquent, but he just seems to have gone a little too far in protecting someone. Still, I sort of wish he'd just end up not coming to school, though that isn't something I should say as a teacher, she said with a frown as she knew it was wrong of her and that she should give him a chance before making judgment. Well, I should be returning to practice, he said as she nodded as if she just remembered something. Oh, right, the tournament's coming up, isn't it? She said, remembering how it was coming up rather soon, so the volleyball team was in full swing in terms of practicing. Yeah, having such high expectations placed on you by others is quite a problem in itself. We'll have to work hard to make up for the track team too, Kamoshida said with a proud smile as she frowned and looked away a bit. Yes, that's true, she said before she watched him walk away, leaving her to continue to worry and wonder how tomorrow would turn out. Naruto groaned a bit as he sat in Sajiro's car as they were stuck in traffic and had been for what felt like the last hour or more. Traffic's not moving at all, Sujiro said impatiently as he tapped his fingers on his steering wheel, wishing the cars in front of him would move. You're taking the train starting tomorrow, so hopefully you won't be caught up like this, he said with a sigh before he looked over at him. So how was it? The school, I mean. Do you think you can manage? Sujiro asked as Naruto leaned back a bit and hummed a bit in thought. I think it'll be fine even if my record is somehow told around school. I've never been one to let what people say bother me, Naruto said, being rather confident in himself since with blood red hair and whiskers he had grown up being bullied by kids about being a demon or a monster. In the end, it just helped him realize who his true friends were. At least until this all happened. And most of them, save for a few, left him. Well, good on you for persevering, I guess, Sujiro said with a sigh as while he was somewhat impressed by Naruto, he was more annoyed at being stuck in traffic like this. Just try not to cause too much trouble, he added before a report came over the radio detailing how due to a subway train being derailed it would delay and mess with the times of the subway until things got fixed. Another accident. So that's why it's so crowded, there's been a lot of those lately, he complained a bit before gaining a slightly somber look. In fact, there was a real sad on just last month. It happened before you came here. If I remember right, the girl that passed away was only 15. Her parents have got to be just, he said before trailing off, not wanting go on towards such a sad topic. Eventually they were able to return to LeBlanc, but it was late into the evening by the time they arrived, much to Sujiro's annoyance. Damn, to think there'd be that much traffic, what a waste of time. I wasn't even able to open the cafe today, Sujiro said with a sigh, Naruto frowning as he felt this was partially his fault. Sorry you had to do this for me, Naruto apologized a bit before Sujiro shook his head and waved him off. Not your fault, blame the stupid traffic. Now come on, let's head upstairs, there's something I need to give you, Sujiro said before motioning for Naruto to lead the way while he looked up the news about the accident that just happened. Talk about a gruesome accident, 80 people were involved, Sujiro said with a wince before pulling out a book and tossing it onto the table near the stairs. That is a diary. Make sure to keep it up to date. You may be under probation, but there's no special limits on what you do in particular besides following the law that is. However, I'm obligated to report on you, which is why I'm having you record your daily activities, the man explained before his phone rang and diverted his attention. Naruto didn't pay Sujiro's phone call any mind as he picked up the diary and flipped through the empty pages. Thin pages, but more than enough for a year, easily 1 to 2 pages a day maybe if I were to write every day, Naruto thought before pocketing the book just as Sujiro hung up his call. I'm off. I'll lock the place up, so do whatever you want for the rest of the night. Don't mess up my store though, but then again I don't think I have to really warn you, Sujiro said, already getting the feeling the kid wasn't the kind to mess with his place and the serious look in the boy's eyes reaffirming that a bit. Don't worry, last thing I'm going to do is mess around with your stuff, as 1, that's messed up to do with you being kind enough to allow me to stay here, and 2, it'd result in me getting kicked out and most likely arrested, Naruto told him, understanding why Sujiro had to warn him, but at the same time hoping the man at least figured he wasn't stupid enough to bite the hand that was feeding him in a sense. Good, seems you aren't stupid, Sujiro chuckled with a smirk before beginning his way down the stairs. You got school tomorrow, so you better head off to bed soon, he reminded him before leaving with the bell chiming signaling he had really left. Guess I should do as I'm told, Naruto thought with a frown, pulling out the book and a pen from his bag and writing a bit in the diary. He didn't write too much in it, just some thoughts about Sujiro, how things went at school, and as much as he wasn't sure about it, his odd dream with the long-nosed man in the so-called velvet room. His thoughts were interrupted though as a ringing started to play out, clearly not coming from his phone but instead from downstairs. Is someone calling the pay phone I saw down there? He thought with a frown before he headed downstairs to answer it. Hey, it's me, Sujiro's voice said over the phone. Look, I closed the shop but I forgot to flip the sign to closed when I left. It's too much trouble for me to come back and do it, so can you do it for me? He asked while Naruto looked over, seeing the closed part of the sign was facing him through the glass front door. Don't worry, I got it, Naruto told him before his caretaker chuckled a bit. I doubt any customers are going to come now even if the sign's flipped to open, but I have to say it's a relief that you answered. It's a personal policy of mine to not save a guy's number in my phone, Sujiro said, getting an eye roll from Naruto. God, now it's obvious that you and Jiraiya are friends with a comment like that, he joked before getting a bit of a grumble from Sujiro. Oh, whatever, just flip the sign for me, the man said, his tone making it clear that he wasn't actually upset at his comment. Again, don't worry, I got it, Naruto assured him before the man hung up and allowed him to go out and flip the sign before coming back in and locking the door again. After changing back into his pajamas, Naruto frowned as he stared up at the ceiling on his new bed, scrolling through some things on the web about the most recent accident since he had some time before he had to completely go to bed. His frown turned to a bit of confusion as he saw a familiar red and black eye app on his phone. Wait, didn't I delete this? He thought with a raised eyebrow, unsure what to do with it, but given that confusing dream about the Velvet Room, a part of him felt the app was somehow related to it. Given the craziness of everything. Well, I'll check it out tomorrow. For now it's getting too late, he thought before tossing the blanket over him to head off to bed.